concerned about your age. Success is not concerned about your ethnicity. Success is not concerned about your gender. Success has absolutely no respect for your socio-economic status. Success certainly doesn't care where you come from. Success is only interested in one thing. And that one thing is what you're made of. We are not the sum total of our environments. We are not the sum total of our predisposed genetics. However, I am of the opinion that we are the sum total of our thoughts. And success or failure are typically one thought away. This information that I'm going to share with you is not new, but it's certainly worth revisiting. I'm going to stand on the shoulders of the giants of yesteryear, those who have come before me. Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Dr. Seuss, Henry Ford, and Jesus Christ. As a coach for 28 years, I've had the opportunity to watch and to also assist individuals, teams, and organizations achieve unprecedented levels of success. I've also had the opportunity to experience triumph and tragedy. I've watched fear, apprehension, self-doubt creep in. When victory was in sight, I've watched myself shrink to mediocrity. This is a place where our fears and our dreams collide. I'm of the opinion that life is good, and life is good all the time. In fact, today I'm wearing my happy socks. They're yellow with a smiley face on them. I wear these socks because I've learned how to think myself happy. Several years ago, I had an incredible experience. I call it a Job experience. Well, if you don't know anything about Job, let me share the Cliff Notes version. One day, God and the angels, they're hanging out in the holiest of the holies. Satan shows up. Satan comes over. God says, Satan, what are you doing up here? Satan says, I'm doing what I do. I'm roaming back and forth and going to and fro, trying to find someone I can kill and destroy. God says, Satan, have you considered my good servant Job? Well, unbeknownst to Job, he becomes a principal player in a battle of good versus evil. Scripture suggests that Job loses everything. He loses his children. He loses his livestock. His wife says, why don't you turn to that God of yours and die? Job loses his friends, and then ultimately he loses his sense of self. Well, according to Napoleon Bonaparte, there are 15 minutes in every battle that will determine the outcome of the war. I had a similar experience, and my 15 minutes lasted for 3 long years. January 1998, our daughter was born premature, 2 pounds, 9 ounces, about the size of my hand. She came home in June after being in the NICU for 6 months. 2 months later, my oldest son, he loses this battle against sickle cell anemia. For 2 years, it was touch and go in my household all the time. Finally, after 2 years, the stress and the sorrow ended, in a not-so-friendly divorce. But when I didn't think that things could get any worse, I show up to work one day only to find that my job is terminated. I left work that day, and I went home to my 1988 Jeep Cherokee. At that point, I was homeless. I slept through the night, and upon awakening that morning, there was a doom loop playing in my head. The premature birth of my daughter, the premature loss of my son, the premature loss of my marriage, the premature loss of my job. The accumulation of the blows were too much. This doom loop just kept playing. And it's amazing how our brains will gravitate to the negative. I remember seeing a fight between George Foreman and Joe Frazier. And in the second round, George Foreman has beaten Frazier down. There was a host or an anchor whose name was Howard Cosell. And he said, "Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!" And he said it with such an intensity and urgency as if though if the referee didn't stop the fight, he was concerned for Joe Frazier's life. Well, my own internal referee had said, "Down goes Charmas. Down goes Charmas. Down goes Charmas." I thought I was a battle-tested warrior, but I have to tell you the truth and be transparent. I didn't have the courage nor the strength to continue this fight. Every day upon awakening, we engage in a civil war. This civil war takes place in our minds. Therefore, the mind is the battlefield. Our brains process between 45 and 60,000 thoughts per day. Up to 80% of those thoughts are repetitive. Based on our internal narrative, at any given moment, we are either selling ourselves on ourselves or we're selling ourselves out. The brain makes a wonderful servant, but a horrible master. This civil war continued and continued and continued. I came to the conclusion that it was very, very difficult to continue along that pace and that pattern. In essence, my biography had become my biology. Our actions can be no wiser than our thoughts. Our thinking no greater than our understanding. According to Mark Twain, the two most important days of our lives are the day that you're born and the day you find out why. Well, I was born August 18th, 1961, Tachikawa Air Force Base, Tokyo, Japan. And on a cool September morning, back in 2001, I found out why. I was introduced to the power of Jesus Christ. I was introduced to the power of thoughts and words. I came to understand this, that words and thoughts carry absolutely no value. We assign them the value based on our response and based on our experiences. In my profession, there's a rule of human performance. And that rule is the 595 human performance rule. The rule suggests that sport is 95% physiological, 5% psychological, but the 5% controls the 95. I've adopted this same human performance model for life. At the end of the day, what I've come to find out is this. Our mental physiology is our greatest predictor of success. So what does that mean? It's based on how we think, what we say, followed by what we do. Think. Henry Ford says, If you think you can or you can't, you're right. Napoleon Hill says, as a man thinketh, so is he. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says that we can command our thoughts to become obedient. Proverbs 23:7 says this, as a man thinketh, he become. This word say, please pay attention to this aspect of the communication. With sound, there is an inherent power. Most of us are not familiar with this term. We've heard the word abracadabra, but we don't know what it means. It's not mystical. It's not some magical thing. It's an Aramaic term that means this. As I speak, I create. As I speak, I create. 1 Peter 4 verse 11 says that if speaking is your gift, then speak as if though God himself were speaking through you. My friends, I know that WWW stands for World Wide Web, but not in my world. It stands for Win with Words. Win with Words. In addition, it stands for Witness, Witness, Witness. Well, this month, 15 years ago, I had no physical address. I had no zip code. I had no P.O. box. I was homeless. But today, I'm the owner of 3 highly successful businesses that specialize in performance and achievement. And by the way, I'm on TED. Imagine that. I've come to find something out that I want to be your eternal truth as well as mine. As a coach, and I mean not just an athletic coach, but a mentor coach, a teacher coach, a pastor coach, whatever kind of coach, your lifetime value and my lifetime value will never be determined in the win-loss column. It's not going to be determined based on the size of your 401k, your zip code, the size of the car that you have, or whoever you have hanging on your side. There is but one currency in this world, just one, and that currency is people. Our lifetime value will only be determined based on the number of lives that we have impacted positively. Today, I am the decisive element in my community, in the classroom, in the workplace, and in this ballroom. It's my personal approach that will create the climate, my daily mood that makes the weather. Because of my influence, I have tremendous power to make someone else's life miserable or joyous. I can choose to be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can choose to humor, to hurt, or to heal. Who am I? I am your thoughts. Success doesn't care about your age. Success doesn't care about your ethnicity. Success is not concerned with your gender. Success certainly doesn't care about your socioeconomic background. Success doesn't care whether you live in a Jeep. Success is only concerned about one thing. And that one thing is what you're made of. My friends, I'm going to leave you with a quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Epictetus was born a slave, and he went on to teach great minds like Marcus Aurelius, better known as Caesar. He says, and I quote, "Tentative efforts lead to tentative outcomes. Therefore, give yourself fully to your endeavors. Decide to construct your character through excellent actions. Determined to pay the price of a worthy goal. For the trials that you've encountered have introduced you to your strengths. Remain steadfast. And one day, you will build something worthy, something that endures, something worthy of your potential. My name is Charmas Lee. Thank you for your time, and I build champions.